Hi folks, it's Jay. A few years ago, I wandered into a backyard of a stranger during a garden walk, and I couldn't believe what was hidden behind that seemingly ordinary suburban home. But the gardener told me it wasn't the right time to see their garden, that I should come back later in the season, because that's when their backyard transforms into the most lush and bountiful place one can imagine. I was so intrigued that I finally returned to this garden last August. I arrived shortly after daybreak, just as the gardener began his daily ritual, tending to the garden in the hush of dawn's first light. As I made my way through their beautiful and functional outdoor spaces, I was once again struck by what's hidden in the backyard, an unusually productive and unique suburban homestead, bountiful, vibrant, and beyond stunning. What made it even more remarkable was what I learned from the gardener. During the growing season, 3/4 of their daily food comes from that very space, a space smaller than 1/4 of an acre. And they do it all for what they jokingly called a selfish reason, not to impress anyone, but simply to create something beautiful. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy, not for what they possess, but for the poetic way of living they have found in their small corner on earth. This is the garden created by Jeff and his wife, hidden in a sleepy village in western New York. And yet, I believe it carries the spirit that speaks to us all, a reminder of the beautiful, grounding ways we can connect with the land beneath our own feet. And I'm with the gardener and also farmer Jeff.
Farmer Jeff. Good morning, Jay.
Yeah, how are you?
Excellent. Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for sharing your garden with us. Can we join you for a walk in your garden?
Please.
I'll follow you. So this is the front yard of your garden, and you are in USDA Zone 6, right, Jeff?
6B, I think, in general terms. We're a little bit more temperate here. Just close enough to the lake that it's a little bit warmer. Yeah. We get away with a lot of plants you probably shouldn't grow. But
you have such an impressive collection of plants, and ornamental and also edible. This is your front door. You have this very striking, dramatic container.
It's just standard steel. We like rust. So rust is important to us. We had large containers that we just wrapped in steel to create an aesthetic that kind of matches what we want in the house.
Yeah, they're substantial and they provide this very unique texture, very earthy, very natural looking. And the things you have in the container are kind of unusual. The tall one, they're a variegated type of Angel's trumpet, right?
Absolutely right. It's Bergmansia snowbank, and I fell in love with it. I got it from Plant Delights in North Carolina. It's an introduction, I believe, by Dan Himes at Terra Nova Nurseries, and very easy to propagate, and it's just a really bold statement. And we do something different every year in these containers, but that was kind of my design for this year.
Yeah, they're really striking and also beautiful. You have a lot of evergreen in the front as well.
Well, we like contrast. So contrast is a big part of what we do. Yeah. And we like woodies, and we like obviously herbaceous perennials, but we like contrast. So there's not ever one color next to another. It's always different.
This is stunning. Let me make a turn to show the front yard. To use oversized container to create like a punctuation in the garden. And also with I would consider those as mixed border with small trees and shrubs, evergreen, and also perennial. You create this very intriguing tapestry. What is this tree we're looking at?
That's Stewartia pseudocamellia, which in my contention, Jay, is the finest small tree that has ever been grown. It's a 4-season tree. It's beautiful spring bloom, early summer bloom, exfoliating bark. And then the fall color is just fiery. It's the most beautiful tree. It's very slow growing, kind of hard to find, but I highly recommend that tree.
So the buds we're looking at.
That's actually the seed pod. Yeah, it's finished blooming, and that's the seed pod, and they drop off. You would have to order it from a garden center, but I would recommend that tree.
And I see you have the sunken Aurelia.
That is my #1 perennial of all time that you picked that out. That is literally, again, another Terra Nova introduction. I think it is the finest herbaceous perennial that you can grow. It's my #1 plant.
Yeah, the color, the chartreuse golden color, just stay so nice even.
It never looks bad.
So we're visiting Jeff's garden in mid-August. It's kind of late in the season, but the color is still so striking. They don't fade.
Jay, I want to add one thing. The mistake people make with containers, my opinion, is they do containers that are too small. And I have found great success with very large containers. And it really is a moisture consideration. So if I could give someone some suggestions on at least the container part of what we do, we like large containers, and they work very well.
For containers, you always want to use 1 or 2 sizes larger than the one you feel comfortable with.
Or maybe more.
Maybe more, yes. Once they're in the landscape, you want them to stand out. This is a quite substantial garden area. You have quite an impressive collection of plants. This is a variegated hydrangea, right?
Which never blooms, and as you know, this year has been the most glorious year for hydrangeas that we've ever had. Obviously, it was a milder winter. Maybe a decent amount of snow cover in some regards, but
you have this hydrangea right at the base of a maple. Right?
I know, and you would think that, and I have to water that a little extra care for water. I just like the variegated foliage.
Yeah, they're really beautiful. You probably wouldn't believe me if I tell you that behind this stunning front yard, there is an even more extraordinary backyard that Jeff will show us just in a minute. But beyond all the beauty, what truly makes our garden special is the deep connection we build with the land. And it's not just about creating something beautiful. It's about an inner drive to nurture and care for the place where we call home. So those are the allium Schubertii, and I see you have the seed on top of it.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Eventually the wind catches them and takes them away, but that's the best part of Schubertii is the fact that it just keeps that seed head.
Yeah, it's almost look like a garden ornament, like a star.
Some people actually paint them, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
I just keep them in, and eventually, again, they'll just fall off.
So do they come back reliably?
Oh yes. Okay. Oh, it's a great allium. Yeah, we've had great luck with them.
What about the seed? Do you find them self-seeding?
I've never had that, Jay.
Okay. There are so many different varieties of alliums. Another gardener told me her allium would self-sow everywhere in her garden. I have trouble getting some of the variety return after one.
Well, you can see millennium. There's obviously the late millennium. The purple you can see between. Alliums are fantastic. They're my favorite bulb, and we plant new alliums every year.
They are essentially pest deer and bunny proof.
Yep, they are.
And the other thing is they kind of bloom in between the spring flowers and also all the other perennials.
Right, a little later, and yes.
Yeah, they kind of fill in that gap. So we're walking not on your driveway, it's your neighbor's driveway.
Neighbor's driveway, and they're just the most amazing, loving people, and we try to make their driveway as beautiful as it can be.
This is very beautiful. You have this oversized urn with scented geranium and the variegated impatiens.
And again, that geranium is something I propagate every year. I love it. I just like the contrast. I don't grow it because it's scented, and it certainly doesn't get rid of mosquitoes. It's really just a beautiful plant that's easy to propagate.
Yeah, they have this unique color, and also the shape of the leaf is quite intriguing. Do you have elderberry?
That's that towering
black tower.
Yeah, the Sambucus has been a genus that they've just done tons of hybridizing, and as you know, there's yellows, and it's just a great grouping of plants. The structure really strikes me. I just think it's unique and different. I just think it stands out in the garden.
Do you prune them every
Nope,
year?
I've never touched it. I want it to be natural and unique and craggy and interesting. I'm gonna have to reel it in a little bit. But right now, I'm just letting it do what it does.
Yeah, Yeah, it's beautiful. It just creates this kind of make this garden space very dramatic. And I imagine the view of this space from your house, from inside, you have the contrast between the darker leaf of the elderberry and that sumac. That's tiger.
That is tiger eye.
Tiger
which,
eye.
as everyone knows, if you plant it in one spot, you will have it 30 feet away.
It will start a colony.
Yeah, and actually, I've allowed it to just naturalize. I'm okay with that, and it pops up in different spots every single year, and I let it go.
Yeah, this is a very special variety of the sumacs. Later in season, all the leaves will turn into different shades of yellow and orange and red.
It's really orange and beautiful.
It's very striking. And they look, the form, the structure almost feel like a tropical plant, like a palm, really unique. Those are the Joe Pye.
Yeah, that's Little Joe. And you think, wow, Little Joe is pretty tall, but that's Little Joe. Yeah. And eupatoriums are great. Again, you know, it's a native plant. People love natives. This is a little bit more ornamental. Great seed heads, and look, there's already pollinators on it.
I know, and they have this fragrance. I noticed the fragrance. Is it from the Joe Pye? Yeah, I think it's from the Joe Pye. It's beautiful and very striking. Another sunken Aurelia, and
that's just Prunus festina. And that's another plant that was used heavily in the 70s and 80s as an ornamental plant and I just let it go. I trim that way back every couple of years. I just love the foliage color. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful sand cherry.
Another one of the variegated.
Yeah, we put snowbank. Yeah, and you'll see those around. We put snowbank in a couple different spots, and I just had an open space there where I had a peony that did not work, and I just plunked a couple in there.
Yeah, Japanese anemone and butterfly bush, Badalia.
Yeah, that's supposed to be a variegated form that reverted back to green, but it's still pretty, and I like the kind of pastel colors. It's beautiful.
This side garden, this mixed border or mixed hedgerow along is quite impressive. And I know you have a major passion growing produce, but you also make the garden space very ornamental. Why did you decide to garden in this way?
Well, that's easy. Really, Jay, at its core, I like plants. I'm a plant geek, just like you are. You know, just like everybody that has a garden. We're just plant geeks, and we love new things. I do appreciate natives. I happen to like new introductions. That's kind of my thing. You know, as an example, Golden Spirit, which is a Cotinus that came out many, many years ago, is a Dutch introduction, and I think I had the first one in Western New York, you know. And
so you're talking about this tree in front of us with the very open branching trunk. This is a smoke bush that you see in the nursery, maybe 2 feet tall, with the tag telling you they're going to be like 6 to 8 feet tall and wide.
Yes.
This is 20.
or more, 30. But it's a great statement piece. I love, and of course it flowers, you know, it gets the smoke. It wasn't supposed to get this big, but I let it get this big and I love it.
You have another,
plain old royal purple. And that, I'm going to keep that short, and that's just a blast of color.
And another virtue, I would say, is they take pruning very
well.
If you have deer problem, get the smoke bush. Even if they are damaged by deer, animal, or snow, you can cut them right to the ground. They will come back. And
literally from the ground.
Any plants with this kind of a quality of resilience, we can certainly appreciate that. What about that tree? That really caught my eye in the background. Is that a red bud?
That is a red bud. Yeah, that's forest pansy. And that, again, I think I had one of the earlier forest pansies. You know, it's forest pansy's probably been out for 20, 30 years maybe. But again, I do trim that regularly. So I climb that with a handsaw, and I just shape it a little bit, take out dead material. I really want that to have kind of a unique craggy look. And I also want to get more light down into the plants below. It looks better in the spring. By this time it starts to get muddied, a little kind of washed out, the color. In the spring it's beautifully purple and wonderful.
So I have seen a forest pansy in multiple gardens, and how you train them, how you prune them, make a major difference.
I think it does, yeah.
The way you prune them provide you the opportunity to do more underplanting.
Correct.
How do your neighbors think about your front yard?
We get a lot of compliments, which is very, very nice. The truth of the matter, Jay, is I feel like people put more energy if they do garden more in their backyards, whether they have pools or patios, and that's great. we want to elevate our community.
Talk about the peer pressure. Yeah.
We believe by having as much color in the front as possible is really adding value to our community. And that's, you talk about peer pressure, that's a great word to put it. I think if we just could replicate, 1% of what Wendy and I do across the whole neighborhood, it would just elevate the neighborhood. And you see that in the city of Buffalo with the garden walk.
Yeah.
I mean, the garden walk has made the city better.
Interest in gardening and appreciation to plants is not something that can be forced. You have to kind of plant the seed in people's mind.
But Jay, even if it's 1 out of 100, it's one more person.
Exactly. You have a tricolor beech,
which is planted way too close to a ginkgo, but I'm working with that, and I have to do a little bit of selective pruning, but I've essentially let that plant go. And it really is a beautiful small tree. It's a wonderful tree.
Beech is one of the best candidates to be moved. I've seen video, people move much larger tricolor beech.
Meaning transplanting?
Yes, transplanting.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Meaning when I'm ready, I can transplant it, is what you're telling me.
Yes. That's, kind of break my heart to hear you say you're going to let this go, because this is a beautiful and unusual specimen tree, the variegation on the leaf, and they keep changing color, right? In the early season, they're more pink.
Much more pink. And it leaves out really, really late. So what I'm finding is it's a great contrast in the underplanting with kind of pastel astilbes and other things are almost kind of at peak at the same time. So it's great.
Now we're looking at the backyard. I see you have an area with a sign, the meadow. What's the story behind this area?
We bought the house 20 years ago from a family estate. The woman who lived in the home was my great cousin Peggy, who we love very, very much, and she always referred to the back of her yard as the meadow.
Oh.
So that's an homage to my cousin Peggy, and I wanted kind of a beautiful entrance into the orchard part of our farm.
We're looking at the potager, the kitchen garden area.
Which was the original kind of motivation on the vegetable side. And I never really cared about vegetables when I was at the garden center, but you kind of fall in love with vegetables.
Yes.
And so we thought it'd be fun to have it close to the home. I mean, we're calling it potager. It's a way of producing food pretty close to the house. I'm inspired by the Brits. The Brits use a lot of stone. I happen to like this particular, it's a little bigger stone. We want to replace as much grass with either pavers or stone. It's just what I prefer. Although this drains really well, it keeps pretty clean. And
I love the crunching sound. It's a very, it feels and sound very different.
Well, you can't sneak up on people, that's for sure.
What is this plant?
That is French tarragon. We use a lot of herbs, and I was able to seed pretty successfully some tarragon, and it grows beautifully. It gets very woody. I mean, it's an interesting plant. I wish it was perennial, but it gets quite woody and strong, and it's wonderful, and it's just a great herb. And people don't use it very much, and I think it's kind of underused and should be used more.
And you have a greenhouse. This is something new.
We really use it as a cold frame. Jay, it's not a traditional greenhouse. We don't grow necessarily in it. It's a storage facility for us. There are plants in it right now. It gets too hot in the summer, really, to be viable to grow. But it's great when I'm propagating in the basement, seeding, vegetables. I have to harden vegetables off. It's a great place to keep it at 40 degrees in March. Yeah. And
so it's part of your system.
It's part of the system.
For the transition, for the seedling, which is important. Many people, when they start seed, they were so passionate about the seed, but you have to have a system.
It's hard to keep it on your windowsill for, it's difficult. And Jay, I want to add something. That's just an inexpensive greenhouse. I got it from Wayfair. I struggled because I wanted to have a real greenhouse, and I love real greenhouses. But for people who just want something like this, it's an affordable option. It was relatively easy to erect, and we couldn't be happier with it. So I would encourage people to, if they wanted to have a small greenhouse, those little kind of tarp covered ones, they just don't work. And this was around $1,000, and I'm gonna have to fortify it in the winter. This is not gonna hold up with snow load. So I've got a plan for that too. But it's a great aesthetic. I like the aesthetic of it too.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. And I think it was a smart choice for us anyway.
Yeah. And I like your approach. Start from something small and without putting too much of money. In a few years, if you find more use or more need for a bigger greenhouse,
Build a bigger greenhouse.
yeah, and by that time, you know what you need.
Our motivation to start our suburban farm was really started with our interest in having laying hens. And so we kind of bit the bullet and bought a coop. I put my own spin on it, and then we built the run, and we're really happy to have laying hens. It's a joy to be able to consume your own eggs.
Yeah,
and that was kind of the start of all of this, was to have chickens that produce eggs, and then we kind of accelerated the other part of the farm.
I can testify that you hold yourself to a very high standard. I remember last time when I was here, you were playing classical music for your chickens.
Well, we actually generally play jazz, but that's the classical and jazz.
Yeah, so they have a great life here. You keep them as healthy and as happy possible. They provide the best eggs for you.
They do.
As return.
Jay, we like to kid around that each one of our eggs cost about $2 a piece. But it's really worth it to us, and animal health is important. We do our best. It's hard because in the perfect world, they would be out, consuming, insects and digging in our grass, and that would be great. In the village of Hamburg, that's not allowed.
Yeah. And,
so we have to come up with other ways of creating, and a lot of the produce we produce, I produce so I can feed them to chickens.
Oh, I see.
They are production animals, and we do we take care, we care for them, we love them. They exist to create eggs for us. As caring, loving people, we also have to be mindful that they're living beings, and we want to treat them as the best way we can. This is just kind of raw beds that are just raw production. So, and they're multi-cropped. We really try to create multiple crops in one season if we can, especially brassicas. So cabbage, cauliflower and broccoli, Romanesco, things like that.
So the one we're looking at, this is type of cabbage?
That is actually cauliflower. So I ran out of my own seeds to propagate, but I have a friend who is a longtime grower at Henry's, and he was able to get me some late cauliflower. That's a commercial cultivar. We have great success in cropping twice a year.
Extending the season.
Extending the season. And what's nice about some of the cold crops is you can do that. And even if it gets a little snow on them. And carrots are another example. I'm going to be seeding that bed to the left of potatoes. That's a russet potato that's probably going to get dug in the next week or so. We're going to be cropping a whole bed of carrots. I'll have 300 carrots in that bed. I dig carrots in January,
Wow.
You can do that with parsnips. You could do it with any of those root vegetables. If you're strategic about what you do, you can really create quite a long season of growth.
And I noticed you have quite a few elderberries.
There is one York and two Nova are the cultivars. Got those from Turnbulls as bare root. I actually, Jay, grew them because I thought they would be kind of cool foundation plants.
Yes.
With the benefit of beautiful flowering, and of course the fruiting bodies, the umbels of fruit are pretty spectacular. These are food varieties.
Food variety. But they also provide the flower. I see you still have some of the
Yeah, there's
flower.
some late flowering. Oh, when these were in full bloom, they were spectacular, and they smell beautiful. I didn't get a chance to use them the way I wanted to use them last year, and this year I'm really hoping to do something. Whether I make a juice or I make wine or whatever, I'm kind of looking forward to the possibilities of this year.
Yeah.
We've got some great production. It's another easy plant. Obviously, they get large. Another plant that you should be pretty aggressive in cutting down. Not all the way, but cutting more regularly, and I've learned how to do that, and it's just been fun to grow.
Yeah, I love elderberry. It's really a very useful plant, and they're very easy to propagate from cutting. So what do you have here?
What in front of you, Jay, is winter squash. You can see the flowers. So there's butternut and a new squash called Lodi, new to me anyway. And so I've got 4 plants in that bed. And actually I had really good luck last year doing the same thing. So I just said I'm gonna just replicate it. And of course I rotate my beds too. I have to be very careful about that. So that bed did not have squash in it last year. And again, another crop that I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that by first frost, that the fruit is ready to harvest, and it was last year, so it worked out very well. We have very good luck with winter squash.
Those are
That's potatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a russet variety. That's my last bed. So in a bed that size, which is 12 by 4, pretty consistently get about 50 pounds of potatoes. So I had 3 beds this year, so I have 150 pounds of potatoes. And you're gonna take some of those home too.
I'm sure that'd be the best potato I will ever have. You have onions.
Yeah, my onions are, I am an onion novice. I've tried many different techniques over the years, and I've got a whole new plan for my onions next year. It's the one crop this year that was pretty much a failure, and I was very disappointed. But I'm learning like everybody else.
Yeah.
You make lots of mistakes.
That's how you learn. That's the
how you
best
learn.
way to learn. And those are cabbage.
Yeah, that's a new, well, not new, it's new to me. It's a heritage cultivar from Baker Creek. That's the sauerkraut cabbage, which comes to a point, you see it marketed a lot from Baker Creek, and it's been great. It's been a really fun crop to grow.
So you mentioned you rotate. I assume you also amend?
Historically, I would use Farmer Pirates compost. They have great compost. I like their compost. Now I've switched over only because I have a relationship with Buffalo River compost.
Okay.
So I got about 6 yards of Buffalo River compost this year. And I just top dress the beds.
How do you rotate?
I keep a map of what I planted the year before, and I just make sure that I try not to use, as you can imagine, certain things are nitrogen fixing, so you have to be kind of careful. But I just try to move it around and use kind of logic in my rotations.
Yeah. Those look like...
That's broccoli.
Broccoli.
Yep. Yeah, that's Eastern Magic, which is I had really good luck in the spring with Eastern Magic. Pretty vigorous. I keep them fenced. I do have, as we all do, pests. I'm going to take the fencing down when they get to a certain size, because even if the pests start to eat some of the plants, I don't have pests that would eat the whole plant like a deer or something.
Yeah.
And that's certainly not for the deer. That wouldn't hold deer back. That's more for rabbits. That's watermelon, but that's another heritage cultivar. I think it's called Golden Jubilee. It's a red flesh, yellow skinned, and I thought that'd be kind of fun to grow, more for the ornamental kind of value.
Very interesting.
And I love growing watermelon. I think watermelon has one of the prettiest leaves of all veg crops.
Yeah, almost look like fig a little bit.
Almost like a fig leaf, exactly right.
Yeah. And by the fence, the one with the white flower, what is that?
That actually is a cornice, and I love red osier. So we have a whole grouping of, to your right, of red osier that I cut a lot in the winter, and I wanted yellow, and I'm going to plant another grouping of orange.
Yeah. So
it's great. It's great in design. It's great in flower design and in winter design. I love red osier.
And I see the back of your property. You use them as like a compost or
a large compost area. And Jay, what we're trying to do is create a buffer. So we planted this year 3 liquid amber slender silhouette sweet gums, which I've seen before and loved. And then we've got in between, we've got yellow groove bamboo. I've got it planted in bamboo edging, but it's going to create a wall of interest. So anything behind is kind of hidden.
The sweet gum in autumn would provide
beautiful yellow foliage, and it actually it's a little bit wet back here, so sweet gum can take a little bit of wet, which is helpful. It's my poor man's cedar. Cedar of Lebanon.
You have a lot of fruiting trees in this area.
Yeah, we are learning. The orchard has been, talk about onions being a frustration. The fruit trees can be difficult, and we're learning. I'm studying and reading and watching videos and learning spray regimens where we're not using the kind of chemicals we don't want to use. It's been difficult.
They require a lot of effort.
A lot of effort. We had a late frost that pretty much destroyed all my peach crop. I just have to do a better job of really the spray regimen, and I started a little later than I should have. I really need to start in November with copper sulfate and dormant oils.
I like how you use the metal.
Yeah, that's our signature. I have a friend who's a great guy and a great welder, and we came up with this design. It's very simple. Again, it kind of goes with our rust theme, and it just tells people what the tree is. And it tells me what the tree is because I forget sometimes. Wendy and I, we are leaf collectors, and what we mean by that is we use yards and yards and yards and yards of leaf mulch. And another thing I would encourage people to consider is to gather up leaves, deciduous leaves. We have a walk-behind grinder, kind of a vacuum that grinds it up. But I fill up an area about 8 by 8 and about 8 feet high of leaf mulch every year. And that's predominantly what we use. You can see it here, you can see it around the perimeter of the plantings. Leaf mulch is free and it's awesome. So if I can encourage your viewers to consider maybe investing in a machine to do that, or not just use a lawnmower over top of a pile of leaves. And
I use lawnmower
Yep.
to chop off the leaves and the pile up at a far corner of my garden.
I wish I had more. We run out. Like, we've never put a pile of leaves out at the front of our yard ever.
Yeah.
We collect all of it. In fact, we collect our neighbors' leaves. We collect our neighbors' leaves. We collect everyone's leaves, and they love it too.
You're the best neighbor I can imagine. You take their leaf, and I assume you give them your produce.
They also get produce. Absolutely. No, we have wonderful neighbors.
I see you have a few espalier.
Yeah, another experiment. I've always, of course, I watch Gardener's World, and every, Monty Don has espalier trees, and I thought I got to have espalier trees. So I'm learning. Haven't pruned them yet. You can see there's some pruning that needs to be done, and so that's apple. The Asian pear down there is actually two different Asian pears.
Oh, grafted.
Grafted, yeah. I'd like to fill this whole 10-foot section in between the posts, and hopefully get some good fruit off of it.
Yeah.
Jay, I would add one more thing about how we've utilized our space. Our lot is a Village of Hamburg lot. It's essentially, we'll call it 65 to 70 feet wide and about 275 feet deep, which is a little deeper than other people's lots, but not a lot deeper. You can grow a lot of food in a Village of Hamburg lot, or a Village of Williamsville lot, or a village in Clarence or Lancaster or East Aurora, wherever it is.
Or any suburban area.
Any suburban area, and you don't have to have 14 acres, and we don't.
This is definitely less than 1 acre, right?
It's a quarter acre.
A quarter acre, yeah. But you have this amazing production of vegetable and also egg. How much of the food you eat will be self-sufficient?
Well, we go to Wegmans every week, of course, but during the growing season, we're able to eat probably 75% of the food on our table came from our yard, I would say, in the growing season. Now, and also we supplement with protein. We are meat eaters. The protein we buy is only from local sources as well. So we've developed a mentality that when we can get local stuff, we either buy it or we grow it.
Can we walk towards the potager garden area? I see you have the respect for the land. You harness the power. In return, you harvest the produce. This is such a beautiful cycle of nature.
Jay, I appreciate that greatly. But selfishly, Wendy and I do it because we just love to create beautiful things. And if we can create beautiful things and be good stewards of our property and elevate our community, then to me it's a win-win.
That's very, very true.
And back to the crunching of the stones.
Yeah, beautiful. And I see you have corn.
We don't grow corn for edible purposes. This is glass gem, which is a cultivar that some people have heard of. You would refer to as an autumn or Indian corn, an ornamental corn. It's a beautiful cultivar. Last year I didn't get a single ear because the squirrels ate every one.
That's too bad.
This year I'm thankful that I'm going to have some. At least if we can just tie 3 together and put it on the front door, I'll be happy.
And those are blackberry?
These are blackberries that haven't quite turned black. Very good, Jay. Most people call them raspberries, but these are blackberries. And again, my wife comes out every couple days and she eats them before. They don't even get in the house. They're gone before, because we don't have that many. So
yeah, you cannot get a fresher berry than
yeah,
this.
no, that's fun. Yeah, in fact, my daughter came out and ate a couple yesterday.
This side is
the other side of the driveway garden that we walked down from the beginning of the video. So we decided during COVID, like most families who were struggling with what to do, we decided we need to have water. And so we dug a very simple pond. It's deep enough to overwinter our koi. It's not very big, 9 feet long and 6 feet wide, but it just gives another sound element to our yard. And what's nice is our bedroom window is adjacent to this, so we can hear the water splashing at night. It's really soothing and wonderful. Now the pond is its own. Ponds are a lot of work, but we enjoy it. My wife loves feeding the fish, and it's we've had great luck with it.
Add this element of sound, just stimulate your senses. And you have the castor bean.
That is, absolutely, Ricinus communis, yeah. And I just had a whole bunch of plants that I planted around the yard. I thought, wait a minute, those seeds are poisonous. I didn't want them to drop in the pond, so I actually cut off the seeds. I'm being over careful. I don't want a seed to drop into my pond and one of my koi to eat them and die. So I'm cutting the seeds off, which is the whole point of growing it, because it's got beautiful fruiting
stalks.
Yeah. And I cut them off the other day just so they wouldn't drop in the pond.
I always had the impression that they need full sun. This is not full sun.
Not full sun, and it's doing quite well. It was just an open spot in the yard, and I decided to plop one in because I had 10 or 15 plants. So that's Carmencita, which is the red stemmed, the red flowering variety, which is very common now.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And what's in that green ceramic container?
Well, that's another Calicasia. That's Waikiki, which I think was an All-American winner maybe last year or the year before. David Clark, who you might know, kind of turned me onto it last year, and I overwintered it in my basement, and because I just dug up the bulbs and regenerated the bulbs.
But this is very different.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yes, and the pattern reminds me of tie-dye.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's cool.
So this is the garden area, very close to your deck. You have that is type of Rebecca, right? The yellow.
Yeah, that's herbstone.
Yeah, beautiful.
Now again, that's not full sun, but it does pretty well. But it's traditionally a full sun. I just like the recurved petals. I love the color is different than like Goldstrom that are kind of an orangier. Rebecca, that is a little brighter yellow.
Yeah.
It's a great plant. And you can see it's got a lot of red aphid on it, which I struggle with because it really doesn't hurt the plant. So I've just left it.
Cheerful, the color, I want to
It's
say.
wonderful yellow. It's a beautiful yellow. I love it. It really stands out.
And it kind of echo the sumac in the background a little bit.
I like variegation. I like chartreuse. I like dark foliage plants. We've got a beautiful new Calicasia. It's called black opal, which is beautifully, it's almost black. It's a gorgeous, it's right on the side. You'll see it, Jay.
This is fennel, is it?
That's bronze fennel, which self-seeds all over the place, and I have to reel it in every year. But I still love it. And again, the pollinators, it's a heaven for pollinators.
Yeah, and another element of the yellow. And they have this airy, very soft texture, which is beautiful.
And you can collect the seeds and use the seeds, you know.
This is quite a large deck with the sitting area and also dining area. What's special from my perspective is this is maybe about 20 feet from your potager garden.
Is.
I mean, or even less so if you consider distance from those raised beds. So they're essentially right next to your vegetable production area. So this is just the perfect example of farm to table. It couldn't get better than this. This is just so lovely. And what do you have in those beds?
Well, carrots, and I just planted more cauliflower. We do have, unfortunately, most gardeners know this, when it's a little bit wet like it has been, slugs are a problem, and slugs would eat every one of those plants. So I reluctantly use slug, but that's an organic-based slug bait. That's Sluggo, as some of you know, which works very, very well, and I kind of was a little heavy-handed with it. And I've just started to pull all the carrots. I just actually pickled carrots yesterday, which is one way we'd love to have them. And this whole bed is beets. It's a cultivar called Bull's Blood, which I love just because I think the foliage is spectacular, and the fruit's great too. So it's 3 generations of beets there. That's the first planting.
Oh.
Then I had lettuces and other things. When those were done, I planted another planting of beets, and they're coming on. And then I just seeded these beets within the last maybe 10 days. So it's 3 generations of beet crops.
Within one season?
Within one season.
Wow, this is very interesting. I imagine a lot of people, they have this issue that when they have the big harvest, they have to find ways to use the produce.
If you spread it out, you don't have to worry about that.
So this is a very good strategy. And this is just the whole display, the whole operation is right in front of our eyes. We see the bees in different stages. The one that you're about to harvest, what do you do with this space after you harvest them?
Well, I'll double crop in more lettuce. See, what's nice about lettuce is it comes up quickly and it can tolerate pretty cool temperatures, and we have a really good luck. So I'll plant 6 lettuce crops in a year.
Wow.
Different starting very early and finishing very late. And you're pushing the boundaries. I understand that as we get later and later and later. But Jay, we really have 60 plus days left of good growing conditions.
From mid-August.
Correct. Because historically you'll get a frost sometime, let's say mid-October. So that gives us 60 days. And if you can find crops that can finish in 60 days, plant them. And if you can find crops that can tolerate cool temperatures, even in a light frost or even a heavy frost, like a carrot or something, plant them now.
Yeah, encourage people to think about different ways to extend the season.
As much as you can. Jay, I want to point out a new plant that if you want to see, you can see this kale-looking plant. That's actually calette. So a calette produces a a Brussels sprout, like a Brussels sprout, but also has the benefit of kale edible leaves.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a dual purpose plant. Again, it's another plant I saw in Gardener's World. So I found seed. I believe it's called mistletoe because they usually have winter themes because you won't even get the sprout until well into winter.
The stem, the
Isn't it
color,
beautiful?
Purple it's unbelievable.
And it's ornamental.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And this is asparagus.
That's asparagus, and of course, for those folks who know what to do with asparagus, this is coming into my third season. So next year, I'm actually going to eat some asparagus. I have cut back. This would be completely covered in asparagus fronds. I just decided to slowly cut them back. I'm trying to develop the root system as much as possible, but I can't have it take over the garden because I wanted it. I've got choy in front here. That was peas earlier. I'm going to have another choy crop coming on. Again, multi-cropping.
Yeah, beautiful. So the fern-like leaf.
It is pretty though, isn't it?
It's pretty.
And then of course it gets the red berries. You've seen that. And
Let us take a peek into the potager. And this is a passage.
it was kind of fun to have a boardwalk in the middle, kind of aligning with the door.
What kind of a material?
That is larch, and as I mentioned before, larch to me is the premier wood species to use for outdoor wood use. It's very durable, it's very inexpensive to buy, it's just a great wood.
Yeah, and at the far end of this broad walk under the rooster, you have a fig.
I have finally figured out how to do what I do, Jay, is obviously you pick a winter hardy variety, whether it's Chicago hardy or whatever, and that overwinters in my garage, an unheated garage. I'm very lucky I have an unheated garage. If I had a heated garage, it would be a problem. I have an unheated garage, but never really gets much colder than, let's say, 28 degrees.
Okay.
So I can overwinter agapanthus and eucomis, and I can do all my bulb forcing in my garage to get the vernalization. I can overwinter my fig. And then what I do is I throw that fig in the greenhouse at 40 degrees and then really kind of kickstart it because figs take a long time to mature. Most people can't even get a fig fruit because by the time it fruits and matures, it's winter, you know. And so I have a lot of fruit, and I'm really hoping within the next month or so I'm going to start to eat some.
And I do say you have a lot of fig.
Oh, there's a lot. And it's a beautiful plant. Ornamentally, it's a beautiful plant. I love tomatoes. I don't grow usually a lot of tomatoes. This is more than I've ever grown in a long time. I tell you my favorite, again, these are Baker Creek cultivars. They're indeterminate cultivars. The one I like the most is called Mortgage Buster, which is the reddish one in the back. There's 4 of those. They have been a fantastic yielding tomato, pretty clean. I've had very little blight problems early. Of course, you can see I like to clean them up from the bottom to keep the blight, the water splashing concerns. Of course, the beds are covered in leaf mulch, which is a great material to use for tomato areas. And I've made some mistakes this year with my tomatoes. I was a little aggressive in the pruning, and I reduced or eliminated the support system. So they got pulled down. I should have held them up a little better. I'm learning, still learning after 40 years, still learning.
Yeah, it's really bountiful, and it is very rare to see a vegetable garden with this level of aesthetic achievement. It's just so pleasing to the eye, and I think many people, they were put off by the idea of growing vegetable. If we're going to incorporate this into a suburban setting, we want this to be nice looking, neat looking. We live like 10, 20 feet away from that space.
It has to be aesthetic. It has to be ornamental.
You have different varieties of sunflower.
Well, we wanted kind of that tall kind of exterior break, just more of a kind of a wall of interest. And what's really great about sunflowers, as they mature, I harvest and I give them to the chickens.
Oh, wow.
So that's been great too. So we're constantly cutting, and then we're getting new flowers, so extending the season a little bit, but we're growing them for the chickens.
The sunflower is kind of echoing and balancing with the corn on the other side.
That's exactly why we did it that way.
All those celeries. How do you use the celery?
Yeah, we're gonna dig. We're keeping the celery for the garden walks and stuff, but it's time to start harvesting. We've taken quite a few out. You're gonna get a celery to take home too,
we love
Jay.
Celery. This is a shed.
Well, it's our original garden shed, just to have space, because every gardener needs to have a shed to put junk in, right? But we wanted to make it beautiful. And a beautiful can be just as simple as a couple little window boxes, and I happen to use a herb theme this year. And then, of course, in the wintertime, we put greens and you know, bows and things like that in it, and it just makes it beautiful. We want it to be beautiful and also functional. So those are all herbs that I propagated.
And you also use them.
We cut them and use them, and I'm waiting. I've got others that I'm cutting now, but I will start to cut those. And then, of course, in the pots is
those are peppers, right?
Yeah, it's a brand new pepper called habanana, which is a sweet habanero. A chef friend of mine was kind of in love with that plant, so I wanted to grow. So I have about 6 plants, and they are prolific, Jay. The fruits, I've got them staked up. The fruit is pulling the plant down.
Yeah, they're really beautiful.
But they're going to turn orange. So right now they're yellow. They should be turning an orange.
This is such a great idea. They're ornamental and they're edible. They're useful. I read about the concept edible and also ornamental. But you have been doing this for a long time.
That's kind of what we've been. Yeah, maybe we're ahead of the curve a little bit on that. But we've always kind of included veggies in with the ornamentals.
Jeff, what is this plant in the urn? Very unique variegation on the leaf.
That's a new plectranthus called guacamole.
Swedish ivy.
Swedish ivy, classic example of plectranthus.
Yeah, they're so beautiful.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, the variegation. And also they have the purplish stem to complement the yellow edge. They are somewhat edible.
Well, there are plectranthus, I believe, that are edible, and I wouldn't eat that one.
I know they have very pungent.
Very pungent, yes.
You don't need a lot. Agapanthus with...
Yeah, that's a variegated agapanthus, which I love, and it's just on the tail end of flower, which is too bad. We wanted to, there's a few little blue left, and that's another plant that goes in the garage in the winter, and it vernalizes in the winter. It's different because it's variegated. I've never seen, it was hard to find, and I found some. They were very expensive, and they've been great.
Yeah, they echo the variegation on the grass.
Yeah, that's another. It's a miscanthus you don't see hardly ever in garden centers anymore. That's cosmopolitan, which I think it's my favorite grass. Yeah. I love the wider leaf, great variegation. It's been a great plant for me.
Yeah, they are really beautiful. This is an AI generated.
It is not AI generated, so don't blow me in, Jay. This is an upright aloe I believe the upright aloe are called alocasia as opposed to calocasia. I overwinter this plant. I bought one bulb in a garden center, and I overwinter it in my basement. I dig the bulb, cut the foliage off, the bulb is in storage, and I regenerate it in spring. Wow. Very easy to do. Again, Jay, as you notice, very large container.
Yes.
Very, very large container. For something like this to work, it has to be in a large container.
Yeah, but the result is just
it's spectacular.
Almost unbelievable. What started you on this journey with plants, with garden, and now with the farming?
I grew up in a household where my mom always had a small vegetable garden, and you kind of, as kids, you don't care about stuff like that. And I think it was I think it probably planted, as we talk about planted a seed. I ended up working though on a vegetable farm just as a job, and kind of like that a little bit. And then that vegetable farm actually grew plants. And thankfully I was the one that was given the task of starting the garden center up and starting that whole project. And Steve and Harry Lockwood were amazing partners with that and put a lot of trust in me, and we grew that business beautifully. They're still amazing. It's the best garden center in Western New York, my opinion. But that really started my journey. And once you're in a garden center setting and you actually work there, it's amazing how you find cool plants. And so that's really my journey.
Plants, garden, growing vegetable, what kind of impact have they had on your life?
That's very deep.
Yeah.
I can tell you, it is my raison d'etre. It's what I do. It's what I love. And thankfully I have a partner, my wife, who is willing to go along for the ride. If I didn't have her to support what we do here, we couldn't do it. It's just, it's like all the people that watch your channel, it just becomes who you are.
Yes.
It becomes your soul, and I have fallen into the trap, and I love it, and I love plants more than, and gardening and growing vegetables more than anything, and this is what I'm going to do my whole life. We do something new every year.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not done. We're going to put brand new paths in here. I'm going to do pavers in here. My neighbor put a new patio in and gave me all the pavers. So we're going to recycle and reuse those pavers.
Yeah.
And so that's a project I'm going to work on either this fall, next spring. Oh, there's always a plan.
You have this extraordinary, not only curiosity, but passion on building your connection with the land. And you harvest not only the produce, but also a lot of joy from it, which
Absolutely.
is a positive feed cycle. And it's just, it's not only healthy, it's rewarding, not only to you, but to other people, to people surround you.
I hope so.
Yeah, which is so inspiring. I see you have this appreciation and also respect for the nature, for the land, and for other people, which is, I think, the fundamental of a way of living.
It is a way of living. That's exactly a good way to put it.
I would imagine many people would say this is so difficult to do. It's unattainable. I think you just do a little bit every day.
I don't do a little bit every day. I do a lot every day. But the reality is, unfortunately, at our level, which isn't huge, but at our level, it is a second full-time job. I still think you can do it and have a real life. But I think if you're strategic, you can grow a lot of food and have a beautiful garden and not have it take over your life. It takes over my life, and I accept that. I accept that. The reality is I feel like being out, kind of grounding in the soil, which I do regularly. When I say grounding, I don't ground with my feet, I ground with my hands, but I have dirt under my fingernails 24/7. I just feel like that alone is therapeutic and beneficial to me. So that's just, it's become who I am.
But that's a real, I mean, you mentioned dirt under your fingernail. That is the proof of a real connection with the land. And I think
my hands are in the ground every single day.
And I think that is the most poetic way of living. Thank you,
Excellent.
Jeff.
Thanks,
for
Jay.
sharing your garden with us.
Thanks for coming.